In this video, I'm just going to be doing an update on my Impreza Outback Sport. If you saw my last video, I picked this thing up and it was having issues with the clutch, which I narrowed it down to the clutch fork being cracked and bent. And I ended up pulling the engine out of this car. I figured I would just pull the engine and let me get this open. So yeah, I ended up just pulling the engine on this thing. I wanted to check the oil separator plate on the back of the engine. Those tend to leak, especially if they're original ones. And I also wanted to just put a clutch in it because I figured if the engine's out, I might as well spend a little bit of money and just do all the maintenance stuff. That way, if I do end up selling it, I can tell them I put a new clutch in it, and if I keep this thing for a while, then you know, I can have peace of mind that it has a new clutch. Anyways, there's the clutch fork down there. You see it there. Just put a stock one on, and this thing did have the original oil separator plate, which is plastic, and it was leaking, so I put the new upgraded metal one in it. So hopefully I won't have any issues. The rear main seal was not leaking at all. It looked like whenever they did the clutch, whoever did it definitely did the rear main seal, so I didn't replace that. But I did do the valve cover gaskets because they were leaking, and I did that with the engine out because it's super easy on these cars. It seriously took maybe 15 minutes to do it. And then I got the engine all back in, put some fresh Subaru coolant in this thing, just checked everything to make sure it was good. I do need to do the timing belt, it's coming up, but I can do that with the engine in. Just got to remove the radiator, and on these engines it's really simple to do. So that's the next maintenance thing I'm going to do to this thing. So let me show you a couple of the other things that I did to it. This hood's been kind of weird. There we go. So I went ahead and put these side markers on it. I got these off Amazon. These are the same ones I have in my coupe. They're just like the cheapy blacked out ones, but they fit good, and I think they're like 20 something bucks. The ones that were on it were cracked and they were leaking, so every time I washed the car they'd get filled with water. And then, as you can see, I put some new wheels on it. So these are stock 2.5 RS wheels from a 2000 Impreza, so same one as my car. These are the stock 16-inch wheels, 16 by 7. These are painted gold, which whoever painted them, they came out pretty good. And I went with these because it had stock WRX wheels on it, and the tires were shot. So I found these used with good tires for pretty much the same price I was just going to spend on tires. So I just picked these up because I like the RS wheels, and I can put these on my coupe if I want to do that down the line. And I ended up raising this car about 3/4 of an inch. It was pretty much slammed when I got it, and it didn't ride that great. So I went ahead and raised it up because I want some ground clearance, especially if I'm going to be taking this on, you know, some dirt roads if I go mountain biking or camping. I think you can still kind of see the stance. So this thing does have spacers. I didn't know it had spacers when I first got it until I took off the wheels, and I was like, huh. And I also didn't even know these things had drum brakes in the rear, which is kind of crazy. So I'm going to be upgrading the rear brakes to probably the Outback H6, because you can go to the junkyard and get that upgrade for cheap. And then the front brakes, I do have a set of O2 WRX brakes in my basement that I pulled off my coupe when I went with the 4-pots, because these rotors are tiny, so the WRX brakes is a little bit of an upgrade. So I'm going to be doing that soon. And then let's open up the back. I think I showed this in the last video, but just as you can see, I just took it on a trip. I took it on about a 500-mile road trip over the weekend. So I had my bike, couple bikes in here, and just some supplies. And these are awesome because they have a lot of room for how small they are. I mean, these things are small for a wagon, and it's awesome because you can just throw a bunch of stuff in them, and they're super easy to drive. And so a couple of things I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to get one of the rear spoilers. I just feel like these rear ends need that spoiler. I think they just look really good. I don't know, I just don't like how round these are, so get the little spoiler there. I know they make replica ones, I think on eBay for pretty cheap, so probably just going to go with that. Let me show you the interior, because I did change out the interior. So I no longer have the 04 WRX seats. I have stock 2.5 RS seats that I got off Craigslist, I think for about 60 bucks, that are actually in good shape. And these are the same color scheme as my coupe, so if I ever want to put my stock seats in the coupe, I can put these in it. It doesn't match the rear seat, but it's black and gray, which this whole car is black and gray, so they don't look too out of place. I did go with the stock RS steering wheel that I pulled out of my coupe when I went with the STI one, and it did have a removable Momo in it, and I just put the stock one in it. Went to the junkyard and got a new airbag wire, because whoever put the Momo in cut the airbag wires, so I was able to get the stock wires and then get them all hooked up and get the airbag light off, which is awesome. That means it should be good to go. Got the trim all in here with the cob shifter, and I just cleaned the interior, and it came out quite nice. I mean, this car is actually in really good shape for 98. Air conditioning works, which is awesome for trips, and especially where I live, it gets really hot. And let me start it up for you, because I think this thing sounds really good for having a small engine. So that's just idle. Give it a couple of revs. Let me put the camera down, and that way you guys can hear it from the outside. So yeah, I think this thing sounds really good for just a little 2.0 or 2.2. It sounds amazing. Whoever did the exhaust on this thing, which wasn't me, knew what they were doing, because they have like a custom HKS. I don't know what that HKS is from. It's not from a WRX, because I have one on my car and it's different. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a couple things on this thing, so stay tuned for a couple more videos on this thing. And I also have some parts for my coupe, so there'll be a video on my coupe coming up soon. The engine in that thing is starting to finally burn a crap ton of oil, so I'm going to be pulling that engine hopefully this month and doing some upgrades to it while the engine's out. And yeah, I'm hoping to get that thing done soon. And yeah, just stay tuned for some more videos if you're into these cars. Thanks.